meeting to order. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No.
Okay, first order of business, we need to approve the agenda, and I would like to propose one change. I would like to propose that John would have his presentation at 6, and then however long that takes, then the County Board of Appeal and Equalization after that.
Was it already posted as 6 o'clock?
Yeah, that's how the tax statements went out.
Oh,
So we would,
well, in other words, if we get
We
done
have
with
to do it at
John.
6.
if we can get John squeezed in.
Yeah, why don't we-
Okay, yeah, that's gotta be at 6, so, okay.
Yeah.
Carol?
There really isn't much for the finance report. I was thinking we were having the investment, but that's actually in July. So unless you have questions about the finance, the monthly report that went out, John could certainly just go ahead.
We just have to do the Board of Adjustment at 6.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll try to get you in ahead. We have no idea how long that's going to take. The potential is that it'll take a while.
Okay.
So we're trying to help you out a little bit if we can.
I would move to approve the agenda then.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Okay. And we need to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Did it get changed, Michelle, that one little thing that I typoed that I found? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve I shouldn't do that because I really wasn't here. I just read them.
That's all you
Okay.
need to do.
They look good to me, if that's really what happened.
I'll,
You haven't heard anything to the contrary yet.
well, I can, if you don't want to, if you don't feel comfortable making the motion, I'll
You
make
may-
it since I was
okay.
there,
Yeah,
so
it'd be
I'll make
better
the
if Justin
motion.
made the motion, actually, you're right.
Yeah,
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Is there any public comment for the beginning of the meeting? Didn't think so, unless the newspaper guy wants to talk.
Go for it, Craig.
Okay. Donna?
Okay. Good evening.
Aye.
I promise I won't talk like this in the microphone.
turn the mic on, actually. Turn the mic on, actually, Donna. It's not even on.
It's not even on?
Planned it that way.
Hello?
No, try it again.
There's
No?
a button on that
Yeah.
thing.
It doesn't light up or anything.
Try the other one, see if that one lights up.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, where's our
I bet you'll be able to
IT
hear me
guy?
though.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
talk really loud. Okay.
Yeah, but that's going to create a problem later.
Oh,
Oh, well. Oh, stop. Carol, do you know if Andy is here anywhere?
He was just a,
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Donna.
okay. Okay, tonight I'm here to go over the proposal I had for the software for mirror imaging software through Gerard's Business Systems. And most of you hopefully have had a chance to look at it. And basically, what it does, it's a program that captures information from our payment stubs and checks, and it puts into this little nifty scanner, about, like this. And you put the checks in facing the same direction, scan it on through. It will take the data and populate it into our current programming, your current software accounting system, which is the AS400 through Conduent. At that time, it will post the before that, let's go like this. It was, first of all, we have about 100 items at a time. So we put the items in the machine, checks will go through it, And it goes quite quickly. And then what happens is there might be errors, like let's say that somebody makes a check out for $24.25 and their real coupon is $100. So that's not gonna match, so it's gonna come up on the screen and it's gonna have color coded so that you can pick it out really easily and you'll be able to breeze through and correct, the items, because that's what we normally do anyway. So you correct the items, and once everything is complete and the batch is all ready to go, you won't have any more color codes that say that there's any more errors. So you can press the button, it will post the batch right to the software accounting, or the accounting system that we have here presently, which I do all the posting as of right now. So it'll post the batch right to that, and then it'll also, another button to press, it'll also deposit the money electronically right into the Bank of the West. So with that said, there's another great tool for that, and that's researching payments. So let's just say that Justin has a cabin with his family, and he calls me up and says, "Hey Donna, I think it's my turn to make the payment, but can you check to see who made the last payment?" So right now what I have to do is I have to pull it up, probably go to the coupon, and then I would call the bank, and I'd say, "Can you tell me whose check that was?" And now I can just pull it up, look, the check image will be right there, I can look at the image, and it'll show me exactly who paid that tax. It's gonna be really nice for that reason too.
Bet it wasn't you.
Along with that is a letter opener. A letter opener, no more harassment from Justin. A letter opener that's the FD 452. It scans 300 pieces per minute, which is really hard to believe, but now we have this little electronic thing that's $20, and it goes, puts it through there. So that would be really nice, convenient, and so what would happen is for this year, if I would be able to, if you guys would approve it, then I would try to get it, I would let them know as soon as possible, and they can have it installed probably within a couple weeks. And then we would practice with it and get really good, so by tax time in October, we could use it. And then for next year's taxes, I would notify the Master's Touch, and they would put the barcode on, because right now we don't have a barcode on our coupons, but it would still work. So the barcode would go on there, and then that would make it more efficient to read the data. So
So hold on a second. Explain that. So what now?
Okay. There's there'd be a barcode that would go on your coupon,
Okay.
and the Master's Touch just puts that on when they print the statement.
And when you mean a coupon, you mean the tax statement coupon.
The tax,
Yeah.
that
That
little-
slip.
Yeah. Now let's say that you come in and you just say, "Don, I don't have my paperwork." That would be a different story. So
Yep.
that would not, we'd have to still. There's a way that you can still enter them in the system. It's a little bit more work, but we could decide if we want to post those separately or run them through. You could take a picture of the screen, and then Girard Business Systems would set it up, so they'd help us make a field that would, say if you came in, I would just take a picture of a certain part of the statement or on the screen, and then we'd be able to run that through. But I'm not sure if I'll be using that. I'll just see how it works, but otherwise I would just post those separately.
So what this system, if I understand it correctly, so like what you're saying is when you get tax statements and somebody sends you one, say in the mail,
Yep.
and it's got it, you just run it through,
Right.
and then it barcode and reads the statement, what they owe.
It would read the amount. Yeah, it would read the name and the amount and the fields that would populate into the AS400, and then it would just post it automatically.
What are we looking at as far as cost is concerned?
For costs, okay. Do you have your packet with you?
I don't have it.
Yes,
in
one
front of me.
Here, I got it right here.
$114,183.
Yeah.
Okay.
Find it quickly enough.
Yep, the actual one-time charge is $14,183. That includes the software, the hardware, the setup costs, and all that. And the basically the reoccurring cost is $1,900 a year.
Okay, is 14 budgeted at all?
No, not in the budget. Carol? Carol?
There is, we typically don't budget, our interest revenue to the level that we end up being, and I'm sure the difference between that would cover the cost of this.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna be really just setting my revenue for passports too, because I think we're almost there already, and it's only half the year, so
Okay.
I think we're gonna be set, have an extra in there.
Can you use the technology fund at all toward this?
Haven't checked that out.
Yeah, that might be.
I don't know why it couldn't be.
Well, maybe not the technology fund is specifically for recorder's office stuff. The compliance fund has to do with, making sure that documents can get recorded within the 10 days.
Right.
I don't know that either one of them does.
Be worth checking.
You can check.
Yeah, I didn't even ask Bev yet. She did mention to me one time, if it's land use related, which this would obviously be land use related because it's tax, I think she actually,
I think it's.
a while ago when we talked about it, she did bring it up, but I haven't talked about it since, I guess. It's a good point.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. No, we're just mumbling up here, but we just see it as a real plus in what we're trying to accomplish as far as streamlining some of this.
and the efficiencies, especially when you're getting a ton of mail from tax time.
Literally.
The official-
A ton.
It would be it's gonna help a lot. I know it will because I talked to the other counties and I think, I gotta look at my sheet here, but actually Fillmore County, this is what Fillmore County tells me. That, they had 5 people posting in the office and there's only been just me in the past, but I put in lots and lots and lots of hours. But now they have 2 people taking turns, or 1 person doing it, but they take turns. So 1 week, one does it, 1 week the other person does it. So that tells you right there,
Yeah,
save a lot of time.
So,
Okay.
Donna, so this will sort, if I understand it correctly too, this opens the letters?
The
deal.
letter opener opens the letters,
So it opens it.
yeah.
So then
gotta-
you just put like a stack of
Yeah.
envelopes in, and it goes through and it opens them
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And then you just go in and pull it out and put them in the other machine, and then it sorts out all the
Yep,
coupons
you
and
pull 'em
populates
out
the.
envelopes, yep, and you stack them, stack the checks, stack the payments, and then put it, or I believe you put them all together, I think you put your check right behind your stub. So you just, pull them out of the envelopes, turn them over, put the stack, really neatly, of course, into the scanner, it'll just put them right through and.
So
Yeah.
does the checks too?
Mhm.
So then it would know if the person paid.
Yep. I
And
mean,
then I'm
it's-
assuming you would have like an outstanding balance if they only pay like half their taxes. It just shows that.
oh, yeah. Actually, in most cases, most people, it's either half or, the whole amount. And it would, if it didn't match the ticket, the stub, that's when you get your little notice, or your little thing on the screen, the line on the screen that would be color coded. So you'd automatically look at it and say, okay, this one only paid, some people only pay 100 at a time, not very often, but they said about 80% of the time, most of the stubs and checks are matching, for the most part. It's just occasional.
well, I'm convinced it would be a good thing for us to move this direction, so I would make a motion to approve the purchase.
I'll second it. And I guess my only thing is, to me, it kind of seems like why would you not do this? Because that saves a lot of time opening and
Yeah.
sorting and.
Because,
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I agree, it's a very good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's win, absolute win. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
You guys have, out of curiosity, you guys have the machine that addresses and stamps when they go out already?
the addresses, the what?
Like when the statements and stuff go out,
Oh,
when we
yes.
have to do it bulk wise, we
Yeah.
already have that portion.
That goes, we use the vendor master's touch
Okay.
for the statements. They're very, very efficient.
So it's kind of the same thing. I mean,
Well,
and it goes out and labels them all and gets them.
yeah,
Right.
oh yeah, Master Touch is very, very efficient, and it's so far since I've started with those guys, I think they're quite a bit cheaper than what we used to have when I first started, like 8 years ago.
Sure.
And now with the, there are some, everybody's trying to be save money, more automated. I think that's what this system's gonna be like for us, definitely, more automation. And then, at the same time, we are still using the e-notices where you don't have to get your statement, you can pay it, online or whatever, but
Right.
it's still very few that are doing that, so.
Sure.
No more questions.
Yeah, okay,
Get these two people
We wanna be
before
done.
the tax people come.
Oh, okay.
I do
Okay,
think
thanks,
you-
Donna.
okay.
I do think
Thank
you
you,
should check
Donna.
with the compliance fund though, see if that
You
can
can
go.
destroy my 5-minute video, that's fine.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm okay with that.
no, we gotta,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
yeah.
John?
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Yep.
Yeah. Carol, well, wait, I should ask first. Does anyone have any questions for Carol?
No, I don't think so.
We've all read the financials, so, okay. Get things sort of in correct order here. Well, I gotta sign this someplace.
Yeah, the bus must have pulled up.
Eventually.
Must have.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're dead here, so I'll just talk loud.
Talk loud, that's about it.
We've got two contracts for you this evening, Commissioners. The first is called 3P, or Parallel Protection Process Contract. This is a contract that we've had for the last several years with Family Services of Rochester Incorporated. It's an alternative to reaching a settlement in child protection cases, and it revolves around having a conference with concerned parties, the county attorney's office, the family that's involved, and it kind of focuses on the context of the family, protective factors that are available in the family, strengths that they have, and then it also focuses on the specific charges, and you work together to try and reach a settlement. So it's kind of an alternative response to going through a contested court process. The intent is that it's less contentious and hopefully gets everybody on the same page, working toward the development of a case plan to hopefully help families move beyond that. We've used Family Service Rochester Incorporated for the last couple of years of doing that. Initially, we saw a lot of these, and we've been working closely with Sam's office and also with our judge's office, and see that they kind of work really well in some cases and not others. So it's tapered off a bit, but we've had some success with it.
Okay.
And this is one of those contracts we pay as you use them.
Correct.
And about how often do we use them?
You know, I don't think we've had one 3P process this year.
Okay,
Last year we had several, and so I think it's based on the specific case and what the judge orders as well.
right.
So we have this in place so that if the judge does order a parallel protection process, we have we're prepared to be able to complete
Right.
that.
So what is this, the document that you sent us? What even is that? Because it looks like it's an agreement, but then they're talking about
Yeah, it's got a
whereas
bunch
statements, and I'm like, what's the?
Yeah, it's got a bunch of their process stuff that is embedded in the
Oh, okay,
contract. So
okay.
it kind of shows you some of the stuff that I was mentioning. You know, they have this 3P conference that brings these different parties together. And so the intention is it's not in a courtroom, and hopefully less contentious. We can develop better working relationships with these families and hopefully reach a better outcome and a more durable outcome.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so it's, oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So in the contract itself, they had a bunch of attachments
Yeah,
that they reference, and so it shows you some of the forms that they use and some of the processes they use.
gotcha, okay.
We need a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Family Services out of Rochester.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. And the second item, John.
Second one is a guardianship contract, and we've done a number of these in the past. We actually have had to do several more of them recently because we've had an individual in Houston County who did a good number of these for vulnerable adults, who is kind of moving out of that work in kind of semi-retirement. And so we're needing to replace her services with people who still require that. Again, this is for vulnerable adults, and it is somebody who is appointed by the court to care for their affairs. Things like stability of housing, medical appointments, making sure that they're staying up on applications for assistance, things like that. So, for instance, medical assistance isn't something that you apply for and receive once. You have to keep demonstrating that you have a categorical need for it. So it's those types of things. Sometimes it also includes conservatorship, and generally that's ordered when the individual has a fair amount of money that then that person is also managing. So generally we make a petition to the court, and it comes to us from a doctor or somebody, sometimes a parent, who says, you know, this person is in need of guardianship. And all of our guardians are individuals in the community, and we pay $120 a month. As part of that process and different benefits they have, the ward or the person who needs guardianship has to pay some of that if they have available resources, up to $100 a month. The remainder of what they don't or can't cover is covered by the county. Let's see.
You're losing that contract. Here's what I would request, that we suggest that we have a hold harmless clause or some sort of termination requirement. The reason it isn't in this type of contract, there's a lot of statutory protections in it, and that this is really a function of the court system. And for example, if we have some of the concerns we had this happened once here, not with these individuals, but somebody else privately, where there's concerns that they weren't working in the best interest of the ward, we can move ex parte to have the court rule. And so that's why you have the termination clause in there. And as far as the protections of the insurance there, again, it's some of the same statutory protections that are in there. So this is, normally we have that type of stuff in there. The other thing is that these people are individual citizens, if you will. They're not corporations. So to have those people have a errors or omission insurance, that type of stuff, they're just not going to be able to probably obtain it with just regular people off the street, professional. They're not professionals in the sense like an attorney or a plumber or something like that. They have it, but that's everything that's difficult for them to have. Plus the cost of it. And so that's why you don't see that in this type of contract.
John, two questions. Brass code. I'm assuming that's internal coding for what is that? I mean,
Brass code is what we can charge that to for different reimbursement.
sure.
So it's an accounting term.
And then my other question is, how much time does somebody dedicate in doing this to an individual?
You know, I think it really varies, but it's definitely a part-time, very part-time type of thing. And as the person has needs, the guardian is involved in that. It's kind of hard to project what that is, but what they earn through the contract is the same each month, $120 a month.
But I mean, as far as it's not going to be something where somebody's there 4 hours a day every day or
No,
something.
no,
Okay.
no.
So I was going to say $120 doesn't seem like it's going to cover much.
Right, it's not a caretaking type
Okay.
of thing where they're providing those kinds of direct care services. It's more caring for different types of business that a vulnerable adult has been deemed unable to do on their
So
own.
just mainly overseeing, kind of like you say, like they're accounting their finances or something, making sure.
Yeah, housing, making sure that they're in stable housing,
Okay.
making sure that they're getting to appointments, those kinds of things.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we're fortunate in Houston County to have a number of people who are willing to do this kind of work It would be far more expensive if we went through a different entity to do that.
Mhm.
And also, given some of the travel stuff, we don't have any entities like that in Houston County, so we pay additionally too to have transportation. So historically, this is the way we've addressed our guardianship needs in Houston County. You'll probably be seeing some more of these too as we are working through kind of making that shift from somebody who's done a number of them for a good number of years and moving to new folks.
Okay. We need a motion to approve contract.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the guardianship contract.
I'll second it.
And is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you for squeezing me in.
No problem.
Thank you, John.
You bet. Have a good one.
You even got it in with 4 minutes left. That's probably 3.5, but okay. The tax hearing stuff is slated to start at 6, and just in case somebody was going to come in 1 minute to 6, as I typically would, why, I think we'll just wait until 6 to start. So we'll just take a
Well, you want to
4-minute break.
just like approve the consent agenda or the really quick things?
Well, we could, sure. Let's do the consent agenda things. Public notice of the strategic planning meeting scheduled for June 12th. We need to approve that.
Do you want to just do it all one shot?
Yeah, we should. Correspondence from State Demographer, correspondence from Southern Minnesota Tourism, notice of public hearing from City of Caledonia, and correspondence to Mr. Pullman regarding the American Legion resolution.
All right, I will move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion of anything there? Okay. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried.
Want to do disbursements? Also?
Pardon me?
Do you want to do disbursements also?
Yeah, that's simple.
Missed it.
Action items.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Approve claims.
Yeah, approved claims, human services, license center disbursements.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Rescheduled December 25 board meeting. We aren't going to be able to get in here that day, so we do need to reschedule that one.
Do we want to just have the meeting on the second Tuesday and not on the 25th?
That would be logical, unless there's a reason for not doing it.
Carol?
We didn't find it in the minutes, Carol, but Carol indicated that it was rescheduled for the 26th, so on Wednesday.
Oh,
Could do that too.
But I didn't find it in the minutes, so if you would
so
affirm that.
we could,
I'm sure it was discussed at the board meeting and approved. I don't know why.
Well, now that you say that, something rings familiar with that one.
Yeah.
Wednesday should be fine.
no,
I
Any
don't
Wednesday.
problem
think
with
so.
that?
Wednesday at 9 instead of Tuesday at 9.
Do we want to put
Okay.
in the record?
Yeah, we should.
I
If
would-
we couldn't find it, why, we better get it in there, so
Okay.
somebody make a motion.
I'd make a motion that we reschedule the December 25th meeting to December 26th.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Better put that in
Those
full.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carried. And in about 30 seconds, it'll be 6 o'clock, so we can start rather than go to something else. But I better mark off that we've done those.
And that's going to be,
Okay.
And then open the other one, because there is a unique set of minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we suspend the current meeting and open the tax
Board of Adjustment.
board.
of Equalization.
Court of Appeal, yeah.
Correct terminology
Yeah.
we need. Okay.
We need a second to do
We
that.
need a second.
sorry, putting that date in so we don't forget it. I will second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. Now,
May I hand these to you?
Sure.
So I'll go to it, and then I have these in case you didn't bring them. And for Michelle also. Back there. Mhm.
okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Now, one thing I should say before we start, the microphones up here in front, for some reason, they aren't working this evening. The IT guy has gone home and he knows what to do with them and nobody else seems to. So you may have to speak a little bit louder than you're comfortable with, but I'm sorry, they just don't work.
Is that can I have my list so you can know that we have it here? As you know, we sent out valuation notices in this spring, and we held our local boards. We've had a few issues this year. One was how we used to have always held our boards. We learned this year was we had been doing things incorrectly, so we have to correct that at today's meeting. We also started our Vanguard program for the cities, and although our numbers looked right when we compared them to the previous year, we had some fluctuations where some properties in Brownsville, and especially Brownsville, raised and some lowered, which kind of made it look like it was a good transition, but in reality we had issues. And that's where I'd like to start, is with the Brownsville. We have 20 persons that said they would be here today, or 20 parcels. And I'd like to say 9 of those have the same issue. When we grade our properties, a normal house is like a 4. And the 9 that came towards to us and said they would be here tonight were all the same. And it's kind of interesting that they are in the town or the city that we start as 2-0, the first number 2 meaning cities, and 0 being the first one. And it's the very first numbers within that city that all came up with well, pretty much all. 2 were a slight variation, with a 4 plus 10 being 2 grades above our normal and above normal condition, which, myself being here 20 years and Carl being here plus 20, and one of our newer trainees, this looks, I don't want to say erroneous because it was not my work that was done, but it is not the way I would have valued it. I would have valued these, some of these are like 1950, early 50s houses, a story and a half, not a ranch. The normal 4 is like a 3-bedroom ranch with a full basement, probably built in the 70s or 80s. That's a normal. 4 plus 10 is a higher than that. A house built in the 50s has the older insulation, probably 1 socket per house, per room, which is not normal. It's got the older windows, maybe not as many windows as a 4 plus 10 would. Probably not hardwood floors, although they could. So what I'm saying is there's 9 parcels right off the bat that I wish that I would recommend that you go with what we had originally lowered those to, or thereabout. And because in my feeling is that these were not done as I would have done them, or another appraiser with the 20-plus years of experience. I unfortunately cannot lower them because this is what they consider subjective, and the state will not allow us to do it at our level, but you are entitled to do it at your level. And I can tell you the properties so that everybody knows if that's what you'd like.
That
I
sounds-
guess it would be
Yeah, we would
proper to
need- Yes.
list
Okay.
them.
The properties included in this, the 9 that I'm requesting, first off, because they're all the same, would be Maureen Miners, Chelsea Lice, Joanne Kletsky's, Kathleen Phillips, Tim Sears, Nicole Carlin, Rebecca Bacon, and Dave Brinkman. There's one caveat on this. There is a Kathy Folomini, and I don't know if she's here today.
Yes, she is, sir.
Is she? Okay. That I have no record that you were at the last meeting.
Right, and I told you, I just went in, talked to these guys, and I had to leave, I had to.
Yeah, and I'm not sure legally that we can accept that because we sign in, and that's our legal roll call.
So mine
so-
going up $50,000, $53,000 in 1 year has to stay.
Hmm.
even
Well,
though
the thing is we have the,
She was
I-
there
to-
for a home. Anyway, she presented herself. That's what
the
we're
thing
saying.
is, it's not me making this law. The law is you have to have someone, I asked you if you could get someone from the board to.
Yes, and they didn't see me, so I was gonna say, hey, can you lie for me? So they did not see me.
Okay,
But
then,
also, when the letters were sent out, I would like to add, normally when our taxes come out, there's one sheet. This year, there were 2 sheets giving this proposal. I would say 90% of Brownsville didn't even know about
We-
it. They didn't look.
we've used the valuation notices going with the tax statements for many years now. Michelle, do you know how many years it's been?
I don't.
I wish I had.
Can we,
It's been-
I'd like to comment on that too. I don't remember it being that way, and I've been around it.
Well,
We used to
I
always
can
get 'em in 2
assure you
letters.
that-
Oh, yeah.
We used to get the letter.
Carol, do you remember how many years it's been?
We've been outsourcing our run of tax statements and valuation notices for probably 12 years.
Yes, it's been a while.
Outsourcing, no. What I'm saying is, there's too many of us that really believe, we got them in maybe November or December saying the projection. It was not a bill, do not pay this bill.
Oh, that's
And it
the-
came on a but it was the estimate. I have never gotten it where it was attached to the front page of this. I happened to look at it and I said, what the, and I said to my husband, ours went up $53,000 in a year, plus 10,000 the year before. And I said, I was starting to talk to people, I said, did you look at your second page? Well, no, it's just the taxes. No, look at your second page. And this is not.
But still,
The one that
The
comes
fact
out in
is, it's
November
been
is
set
the
out.
proposed notice, there isn't the valuation notice in there. It's the one that comes out in March, that's your tax statement.
Right.
And the valuation notice.
I have filed
We-
taxes, and I worked 38 years in real.
we handled this by the,
And there was nothing in there at the same time as the taxes came. And if you outsourced it, maybe you should check to be outsourced.
excuse me, let's get back. Let's not between us, this is not how we're supposed to run this.
That's fine.
What I need to say is, we handle those statements being sent out under the way that the state requires us to do them. And we've done them for more than 1 year. This was not a surprise attack. And there are no other ways in which we can let everybody know, read your mail. Some responsibility falls on the landowner also.
Granted, but I think an appropriate thing would
So-
have been a stamp on the front page, see page 2, or anything like that.
We've done it for like 12 years. I mean, we have to,
At the end, I'm just sorry, all that, at the end of the day, it's and it shouldn't have went up $50,000 to begin with.
and that's why I'm correcting those that are. So, those that went up erroneously and aren't on this list, and were on the list prior, the one at Brownsville City, that went up with that 4 plus 10 and then above normal, I'm requesting those just go because that is not what I would have felt was the right way to do it, or some of my staff. The person who did do it, I can't ask, they're no longer with the county. I cannot ask them why it was done that way.
And let me just interject here for a second, for everybody's edification. There have been some things that I can't publicly discuss that occurred in the assessor's office, and it's kind of fallen in Cindy's lap to correct and to go forward in a correct manner. So I'm just saying, don't pile on Cindy. We need to get what needs to be corrected, regardless of whether it's Cindy or the board or whomever. But there are issues that I wish I could share that would clarify some of the problems. My next thing, Cindy, is there some way that we as a board can deal with the
one who left and didn't
Yeah.
sign in? Here's what I would say. If you find a way that you can make the motion lying on the fact, if the state accepts that, this is what we'll do. I can't tell you that the state will accept it or not.
Okay, I guess
So
I'm not asking somebody to lie about whether she was there or not. I
Right,
guess
I know.
I'm just asking that if there are people who verify that, yes, indeed, she was there but had to leave early, I'm
I was there
Com-
briefly. But can I just say one more thing?
sure.
I don't think it's just 9 people in Brownsville. It's almost, I would say, at least 75% of Brownsville.
Well,
And if Kathy and Joanne wouldn't have told me, I would not have known because of the 2-page letter. And I think there's a lot of people in Brownsville that I talked to who are like, are you kidding me?
well, here's
And
what,
so I don't think it's fair because a lot of people weren't aware of it. And I think that if we would have another meeting and everyone was aware of it, I am just saying there would probably be a whole.
well, by law, we have to have this all wrapped up by January 1, or July 1. This is an exceptionally late time of the month for this meeting. We do not have time to do that. We legally informed, we are going to do the entire revalue, it's on our list to revalue the entire city, the residential properties in the entire city, beginning next October, and that is the best we can do. I cannot make exceptions legally for someone who failed to read the information. I can't. My heart goes out, but legally I cannot do it.
And I do
now-
call the assessment.
We are trying as a board very hard to do what we can legally. Now, the state of Minnesota's property tax laws are the most complex set of property tax laws in the United States of America, bar none. The legislature has gifted us with that problem. And we just have to do the best that we can to deal with it. We understand as a board, we understand that people in our employ made mistakes. Those folks aren't here now. We can't, they can't answer for those mistakes. We can't force them to answer for those mistakes. All we can do is to do the best that we can to mitigate those mistakes within what the law dictates. And it creates inequities. That's the gentle way to say it. But, yeah, we're doing the best we can, folks, and it is absolutely not the fault of people who are currently in that office. they also are doing the best they can to correct previous errors within, again, within the framework that the state has given us that we can work in. So please keep that in mind. Okay? Yes,
Cindy, are
ma'am.
you looking for those 9 properties for the board to make a decision?
I would really appreciate it if you would make a decision.
And
Most-
that decision would be to,
Would you like me to tell you
Ye-
what it is?
yes.
Okay. Maureen Miners, her valuation was $179,900. Last year, she was $112,100. The decision was to, if you would, lower her value from 179.9 to 126.4.
okay.
Chelsea, 203, or 2001, 201,300, this valuation. 2018, last year valuation, 149,800. We are, Chelsea had an addition.
A realtor that appraised or said what my property would worth to list it, and it would be at 162,500.
And I'm asking it goes 161.9, not knowing what she was about
Right.
this.
And I have comparables, and then if somebody would need to know.
So I'm saying 161.9, so that's pretty darn close to yours. Thank you, Chelsea.
So should we do each of these individually, or can
It's
we
up to you,
do them
but this is
as
your
all
meeting.
9 people?
If this is
Like,
your meeting.
Go with, you want to hear all of them?
Well, not really. I guess
No.
in the interest of time,
I think that-
you've discussed this with the people, that that's what you'd go back to, if you could?
No, I have not. But they're all,
They're all being lowered.
they're all brought down. Some are slightly higher than last year, some are slightly lower than last year, but they're all brought down.
Okay.
Will we be getting letters?
No, I can tell you the numbers, but, no, we're not gonna send out new values until the next year.
we got originally that said that.
Got skipped his.
That's,
She asked a question. The other got skipped.
some
I
are,
would like to ask them.
some are.
No, because I never got a letter with the change from Carl.
Yeah, no.
I think we should
Some
just
are
make a
that
motion
same
to
number, some
lower
are
the
not.
9
Yeah, I
as
know.
It all
recommended.
depends on how,
Right?
what I went through and
I
I
mean, we
looked
could go all
at
night with this.
the program.
Right,
But they're very close if they're not.
right. Well, that was my question.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was close to what the letters we had gotten saying.
Most are, but I would not say everyone because I don't know that for fact.
But they could contact you and get the exact figure.
They can contact me and get the exact figure, but I need to have a decision made today or else recess to another sometime
Well, I think we
between
can
now and
make
the first of the year, of the month, because it has to be turned in. We don't have a lot of time, so you do however you want.
I think we should make a motion to lower their assessed values as Cindy recommends. And they contact you to find out that
They
number.
could. I would appreciate it if they waited a couple of days because we're kind of backlogged. If they want to call me next week, I'd be more than happy to sit down and tell them, but I'd appreciate.
I
having
mean,
a few days to get
there
back.
was errors done, but it's harder for the people to go up that much. And if
Yep.
Cindy's recommending that we do that, I would make a motion to do that.
Could she just list them 9 properties, what they were gonna be, so we kinda know here? It wouldn't take that long if you just.
Oh, you
Yeah,
can do
just
that.
rip through it real quick.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
Joanne's is going to be 108, I'm sorry. Joanne's would be 111,800, 111,008. Kathleen's would be 135. Tim's would be 188,003. Kathy, I did not do yours. Depending on how they decide today, we can. Nicole Carlin would be 150,800. Rebecca Bacon would be 130, and Dave Brinkman 143,200.
Mine went up $200.
Well, that's how it went in the computer.
From what, it was already up 50,000 and now it went up another 200.
What's your name?
Tim Sears. You said 188.3.
It went from 206,700.
That's the estimated market value.
Yeah, to
Okay, I'll be now
188.3.
reading, thank you.
There's a question in the back.
My husband Brent and I have 2 properties in Brownsville that were both assessed. Which property are you referring to?
I have you, that's probably, Nicole, I think that might be a oversight because we only talked about the one on the, with your husband, so, let me look at this. What's that? Okay, Luke did the other one, so let's look it up.
I remember, yeah, I remember putting it.
Okay, here it is. Yeah, it was property number 15, and we lowered it from 163.1 to 14800. All right. I believe that, if I'm reading across it correctly. Yeah, from 163 to 163,100 to 140,800. You're welcome. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So there are 10 then, out of 21.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you say mine, room minus was 126.4?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I ask a question? I am so grateful and I thank you on this for me. But I've always been taught you have to worry about other people too. And as I said, I won't beat a dead horse, but there's a lot of people, I'm 65, but there's a lot of 75-year-olds and whatever that honestly, probably didn't look at the second page. And I understand this is not a blame game, it happened, but like you said, Fred or Mr. Arnold, you've got to make up for the errors that were done. These people were employed, they were culpable. The assessor's office is culpable for it. If there was an error in it, whether it was a computer error, we were told many different things. Is there any chance besides July 1st? Because what I'm understanding, if they reassessed in October, no matter what, you're basically screwed for 2019. And the only thing you'd have is for 2020. So you're paying maybe $50,000 more on a property.
There is one other solution.
Okay.
The only way you can go to this board is if you've gone to the local. If they have not gone to the local board, they cannot go to this board. You can sue us in small claims court, or you can take it to the state, and which you usually need a lawyer for that. That's the only other two alternatives.
All right, is there a way to get the town, I mean, believe me, we've got a wonderful phone system that we can go door to door and say, okay, you have a chance. And we probably should have done this before, but I thought.
But you have to keep in mind, you're going to have a filing fee that's going to be a couple $100 to go small claims.
No,
So-
I'm not talking,
Now,
Those are the only two options.
we need to establish, if we can here, first of all, I think we need a motion. I think, have we had the motion? Yes. Did we get a second? We do not have a second for that yet. We have to deal with that first. And then we can discuss what to do if there is anything that we can do, and apparently there is, or what people can do to mitigate their individual situations. But let's get these 10 pieces of property taken care of first before we lose track of it. Okay? We've got a motion and a second.
No, we need a second.
Oop, we don't have a second. I'm sorry, you just said that. All right. We need a
But I
second.
will second it, though.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. So that motion is
still-
carried.
Okay, I still
Okay.
have the question.
Go.
I had asked earlier, is there some way that we can rectify the situation of,
Well, I want you to keep in mind, and that's why I've given you these booklets to read. If you change any jurisdiction valuation by more than 1%, all of them go away. Nothing will hold.
What do you mean by all of them?
Any corrections you make tonight will not be legal, will not be held. You cannot go over the 1% value change from what our valuations say to what you leave at the end of the day. That is on page, let me see if I can find it. So you could go, first of all, you cannot do anybody who wasn't on this list that didn't show up at a local board. You cannot address those. If you did make a blanket thing and you went over 1%, all of the changes that you approved today will be negated.
Okay,
So you be very careful on
all right.
the law.
If you don't mind,
Yeah.
you have a letter?
I just had a letter from Carl. He came after I had called, and he had came and he had given me this letter saying that mine went from $158,500 down to $100,900.
I can
And so I
address that.
do have a letter. She did tell me that it doesn't count, but he did come to my house to do.
Okay.
That was one of the things that I stated at the very beginning of this meeting. In the past, we were taught ways of doing the local boards that were incorrect. The local board is meant for this one thing, and it has not been done up until partway through this year. The local board is the chance for us to bring appeals to them, whether we correct them on our own, which would be things like coding, wrong square footages, quantitative things. Subjective changes we cannot make. That is only done at the board. We made that mistake, number one. We were doing subjective changes that we could not do. Another mistake was we weren't bringing all of the appeals to the board. If we corrected them on our own, we thought, oh, they were done. This is how we were trained, erroneously. And another one was Brownsville City was adjourned before people had their homes looked at. Once you adjourn a meeting, the meeting is done. If you aren't going to finish your work, you recess it and reconvene. So that was not done correctly. That falls on our end, the training that the one person who took that meeting had. Now, I had a meeting in Caledonia that we did recess and came back because we weren't done. But it also falls on the city council because most elected officials realize that adjournment means you're done. A recess means you can reconvene. So if the work wasn't done, it should not have been adjourned, and it was. So on your letter, Carl sending it out saying he did that, he did in good faith, but it was a subjective change which at our local level we are not allowed to do, but you are. And we have honored that pretty much, that Carl made that decision knowing that that was what's right, and we're bringing it to this board so that they can make that change, because I can't.
But I don't want everybody else's, just for me, that 1%, I don't want everybody else's to stay the same if they just do this, then I would just rather leave it.
Well,
This letter's dated, it's dated May 1st.
okay.
That must be before the meeting.
I guess, just one question, Cindy, could she be included in what we just voted? Could we?
Yeah.
That's a very, Sam, what do you think on that? You're an attorney. Could the woman here, Kathy, was at the meeting, didn't sign in, she was briefly there and left. Does that qualify her to be able to be at this meeting? There was no record of her.
I have no idea, as I see.
See, and that's, I can't speak for how the state would look at that. It would be a guess, at best.
Now,
Okay.
Cindy, my question to you is, considering the number of errors and then the situation of someone having to leave a meeting, considering the number of errors that have gone into this process, is there, and maybe Sam knows this, hopefully one of you does, is there a process of appeal to the state to waive that requirement that you talked about a few moments ago that's on page 18?
Well, you have the right, and this is how it goes, if I remember correctly. you have the right to appeal to the state, and I believe that appeal, I don't remember when that is, if it's later this year or if it's all the way into next year. But you do have the right, if you're at the local and the county.
If you what?
If you have attended the local meeting and the county meeting. I have never ran into this before, and I've never known anybody who has, where somebody didn't stay long enough to be recognized as being there or sign in.
Is there somebody in state government that you or the attorney or I as chair can contact and ask some very specific questions and give them some background about what has happened here and see if we can get some kind of satisfaction on this? If we can't, we can't, but is there somebody that we can actually ask questions of?
I believe that
And what's the
on
process?
this booklet that I gave you, there must be a,
Well, Greg Davids is the chair of the tax committee, so,
but I think you have to go through the Revenue, Department of Revenue.
I know, but
State
he'd
Revenue.
certainly be a
Where to sign.
conduit, or should be.
Yep.
Keep in mind, we have to have this done by July 1.
Well, we've already done
We've
the
done
majority.
the 10.
I mean, if, do you know what, again, what would your impact be financially for a 1 year?
Well, it doesn't give me the total, how much it goes up, just said that.
Just the assessment, yeah.
But like I said, I'm not the only one.
See, we made a motion at our meeting that night that we wanted to go to the board, and this is what we did wrong there too. We should have made a motion, or shouldn't have closed the hearing, but we made a motion that we would like to have the complete city redone because they had this computer error. So we said we'd like to, could we have that? Well, that we found out, Cindy has stated that it was illegal. We shouldn't have done it that way. We should not have closed our hearing apparently.
Well, either,
Continue.
even if you would have closed, I mean, the closing of the hearing, or the meeting, isn't what was illegal on that. A lower entity can't direct it. I mean, I can't go to the federal government and say, I want you to do, we made a vote that you have to do this.
Yeah.
The state tells us, the city doesn't tell the state.
No, we understand that. We just made a motion hoping that maybe we could, if you're having a computer error, that you could re-evaluate it and see why and what, and if it was
It
going to help
wasn't
us.
really a computer error, it was a entry error.
Okay, see, well, we're hearing many different stories too.
So this is what it, I mean,
Yeah, I understand. I think people are just gonna have to live with it till the next year, and, with what you got, and then hopefully the values will come back.
oh,
up.
I think that we've got an excellent
But I
staff.
think you're gonna have to go with what's there. Yes, I understand that, but I like to say, at the city, we did make a motion and say, hey, we wanted to, we think this should be reevaluated, not knowing that we weren't doing it right either, that it should have been, we didn't close our hearing, and we wanted to come to the board just that night with Carl, and Carl should have been able to tell us, no, don't close your hearing, but that's not his fault either. I'm not putting blame on anyone.
Well, there's plenty of
We're
it to
all,
go, yeah.
there's just a mess up in there.
It wasn't, and my goal is to never see any of these errors that I've come across in the last 15 months ever again.
Yeah,
So-
I understand you. I know you got a hard job there. You gotta do it by state protocol.
I do.
So what, I just have a question, this is just in general, for the people that it went up so much, what about property tax refunds next year, are they gonna be huge? I mean,
If yours went up and you qualify,
That was 12%.
well, yeah, if yours went up, I mean, this is something you need to talk to your tax preparer for, but if yours went up, the guidelines, and you're within the I believe it's a financial thing. Carol, you know that.
I'm just saying in general for the people that didn't
I would think
catch
that they'd be
this.
able to get a property tax refund if they have homestead.
Cindy, what about, we do property tax abatements. Would this classify as that or not really?
So that would give the people that are gonna go up next year.
I'll tell you what, when you
money to
start
come
doing
back,
that,
plus we reevaluate.
you start, I don't know.
Hang
if
on,
you
hang on,
legally
hang on,
can.
hang on. Everybody, hang on.
I
What,
don't
Cindy?
know if you legally can, but
Call
keep
on
in
you,
mind
but-
that when you do that, you are taking away money from the city, the
Okay.
levy, the school, the county, all of these people that have,
You'd be going back.
you'll be taking money from them
Okay.
that we are allotting into it. That's why we have to get these numbers so
To
that.
do it before.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, one point of clarification, Attorney Yant, you saw, just talked to him a little bit, and I would ask him to go ahead and say what he needs to say at this point.
The only thing I would say, Chairperson Arnold, is that it seems to me there may be some right to appeal to the Minnesota Tax Court, but it depends upon specific things. What I would suggest is that if you, after this meeting, if we could phrase the question here exactly, I kind of understand what's going on here. I think by next week I could provide you with some guidance with that, if not before that, and then you could share that however you wish to do.
Okay. We don't know what that's going to be yet, but...
Well, what it is, they undoubtedly have a right to appeal to the Minnesota Tax Court.
Yeah, okay.
But the issue is that certain prerequisites, I believe, have to be followed, and that's going to be fact dependent. If you qualify for that remedy, depends on certain things, it appears. And so but I should be able to come up with a general process, and then people would be able to share that, and people could see, do I qualify for that remedy? For example, Minnesota Tax Court or any other remedy. But I think it's going to be fact dependent upon the person's individual circumstances and the steps they may or may not have taken at this point.
Yeah, okay.
Should we continue through the rest? It looks like we'll probably be recessing on this till next week for,
Well,
yeah. I mean, I want to finish the rest of it and then come back if we have to next week, like Sam has.
I can read the section of the code that talks about the tax court, so that if you didn't know why, you will have some knowledge.
What page is that?
This is page 36. Minnesota has a specific court established to hear and determine all questions of law and fact arising under the tax laws of the state. The tax court has statewide jurisdiction. Except for an appeal to the Supreme Court, the tax court is the sole and final authority. The petitioner must file in tax court on or before April 30 of the year in which the tax is payable, not the year of the assessment.
That means April 30th, 2019.
That has to be filed by 2019 then. There are two divisions of tax court, the small claims division and the regular division. The small claims division only hears appeals in certain circumstances and is less formal. Property owners often represent themselves, and there is no official record of proceedings, meaning the decisions cannot be appealed further. The regular division hears all types of appeals, and their decisions can be further appealed because they have that record that you have to have for an appeal. There is a filing fee and other fees associated with appealing to tax court. The court is based in St. Paul, but it travels to the county where the property being appealed is located for the trial. More information is available at, and then they give you the website, taxcourt.state.min.us, which I'll leave up here to somebody. Cindy has a copy of this, and I referenced the page, so she's got it up by now.
Yeah, I have it here.
And basically, unless the county attorney comes up with something radically different, that's probably the framework that we're going to have to work under going forward, the way it looks to me. That's my amateur opinion.
And that's
But-
how I've always been taught on that.
Yeah.
There's just the two ways. You either do the 3 steps, local, county, state, or you go straight to the state.
Yeah.
And,
And
you can do that by small claims court.
yeah. And the state tax court is not as cumbersome, obviously, from what I read, as you might think it is originally. They will, if there are a whole bunch of people from Brownsville that want to appeal or want to get into this, obviously the tax court's going to come to Houston County.
And I'd like to make
So
another
that will help.
comment when talking with my compliance officer from the Department of Revenue about this. Chances are anybody who, and I'm not saying everybody, I'm not making a blanket statement, but chances are anybody who appeals under the same conditions as you would receive the same answer as you read. It's just, it's gonna cost them the filing fees, which could be $100, $200.
Oh, you don't know how much it is at all?
I don't know.
Doesn't say.
You'd have to talk to
It
the,
doesn't say.
no, and that's because they change, I don't know. But the taxcourt.state.min.us is where you'd probably have to start.
Is that $200 per claim or $200?
I'm not saying 200, I'm saying it could be in that ballpark, and I would say per claim. You can't, yeah, because this is all an individual, look, we can't do the whole city of Brownsville for $200, no.
Okay, but like with Kathy, she's just backing, but can there be a decision or at least checked into to see, because she was there briefly, but she was still there?
I don't have a problem, the rest of the board, as far as approving her with the caveat of the approval from the state. I mean, we're doing what we can do at this level. If the state says
If the
we
state
can't,
says,
then
if the
fine.
state, we can approve it here.
Right.
And then if the state says, no, you can't do that, well,
I think we should do like Justin suggested.
Yeah.
Approve it at this point as a board. Well,
Approve
we
it.
already did the 10, and I think she has a legitimate, she was there, left.
yeah,
We can do that as a board.
Well, if we can be subjective, that's
Yeah.
subjective, so.
Right.
yeah.
I'd move to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, whoops, did we have?
Sorry, I jumped again.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That is carried. No guarantees on that one, trust me, but
But at least we can say we did our part.
Yeah.
And if they override us, they override us.
So we're done with Brownsville?
I believe we are.
If we're in our bounds though to tell people something in Brownsville about, I truly believe if I called 40 households, probably 25 of them, except the ones that we've already talked about tonight, probably didn't look at that, whether it's our own fault or not, that's a moot point. Is there
Well-
anything we can do to tell them what kind of recourse, are they just gonna be mad and then?
Well, you have every right to
We gotta
tell
tell
Well-
them, but they'll have to, when they get
It's-
reevaluated, come this fall time, October, get reevaluated to the prices, and if it comes down, you pay a higher tax next year, but you have a recourse to go after that, if it's over so much percent, you get a rebate back from the state.
Okay,
right.
And then next year, it will go down. No, if your taxes go up over so much, then you can file for a rebate, you get a certain amount. And then after that, next year, if they lower the things, your tax would go back down.
I think Tim has a very good point, and keep this in mind. When we reappraise in October, that's for January 2nd, 2019. If these go down, like I think they're going to, because we'll be grading them correctly, you'll know that in what, end of March, beginning of April, we send out those statements with the values? And you don't have to apply till the end of April. So if you're, let's just say, figuratively speaking, you're at 150 right now, you get lowered to 120 January 2nd, as of January 2nd, 2019 for payable 2020. That's proof right there that you can bring and say, this
You can
was
get a
erroneous.
rebate.
Well, that's, yeah, I'm just trying to.
So you brought up a very good point, you're gonna have the information in front of you.
Okay,
And
but,
then you can decide if you wanna go on there, if it's not worth it.
but now I got a question, because I'd be a little confused. You were supposed to be at a meeting and sign in order for this to happen, correct?
To get you to decide today, they can still go to small claims court. That's a
Okay.
whole different, there's two different ways.
Okay, so what you're asking is if you call people in order to go to small claims court, or you want the board to make a decision like we did tonight?
Well, no, because I guess I can't ask you to make a decision.
Well, I was gonna say it'd be a moot point, because if you didn't sign at the other meeting, you're not gonna get that. So the only step now would be to get together to go to small claims court, correct?
Right.
Which, then I would encourage you to make those phone calls and do that.
Or claim your rebate.
Or
Or
wait
claim-
till
yeah.
you get your rebate
Right,
next year.
exactly.
My
Yep.
90-year-old mother, I didn't look at her tax statement, my hearing takes care of that. Well, after this one, I went to look at hers, hers went up $50,000. She's 90 years old, she never, my father passed away here a couple years ago, and he did all that work, my mother
Right.
never did. But this is what we're gonna have to do, I think, is she'll claim for this rebate that she gets because
Right.
it does go up that high. They reevaluate her property, it comes down, then next year it'll be back.
Yeah.
That's
And I
right.
guess as far as the board goes, I don't know that we can do anything else other than encourage you guys to do that.
I think it's word of mouth and Brownsville.
Absolutely, you know,
So
and
even if ours went up like $11,000, I guess I never did this.
It's very easy to apply for the rebate, because I have done that.
But I mean, I could do that even though I don't have proof, because she said that they're not sending me out a letter of my new.
You wouldn't do that till next year.
You don't do it till next year. You'll get your April 30th, I
For
think
this year
is.
though, or for next year?
Yeah.
For next year.
You're not paying that tax till 19, so you won't be doing it this
So
year.
it'll be in there, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is an easy form to fill out.
Oh, very
because
easy.
I've had to do that personally.
Well, you have to be, there's an income qualification too, I believe. Isn't there an income?
So that, not for the special tax refund, there's a
Okay.
property tax refund that's
I
income
don't
based.
think so. I
Yeah,
think
the
that's
PTI.
just a beacon.
But on the back
But
side,
Okay.
there's a special
Let's-
property tax
let's
refund,
just-
your tax
we're done with
$500.
Right.
And that's not income related at all.
Could we go on? Okay,
Okay.
I believe that is it for Brownsville, unless there's somebody here that I did not address from Brownsville City. Okay, let's move on
Okay.
to La Crescent. I had a Tom Hellinger.
I'm here.
Okay, he went from 924,007 to 948. Carl went out. He was another one that had a grade that was put in, and you gotta remember, this was something very fresh to us. A lot of this was done before we even had classes because we had to get it done. Carl had lowered his grade and his condition from a 4+5 and normal, and then he also had another house of a 2 and very good. And so Carl expected him to go down to, Carl had said 886, he was at 924 last year. We had said 948 this year, so if you want him to go to the 886 or however you want to do it, that's up to you.
This is similar to what we just
It
did
was
for the
similar.
10 properties.
And
Okay.
so, and Tammy Colon has, was also similar, the 4+10 and above normal. Tom Reed had a 4, and we changed it to a 4-5 and below normal. John Graff, he was a 4 to 4-5. He is not here, but somebody was supposed to bring you have a letter saying that I could speak for him. And so that we are requesting that his goes down. We have a Randy Gibson, was above normal to normal grade. We have a Rick Merkel that was 4 to 4-5 and a normal to below normal. And then we have a Darren Moser, and I cannot tell you what happened there except for that Carl has him from a 275 to a 266 because somebody went in with these changing and went into the certified and changed the value, so I can't tell you what the conditions were there because they were changed. We have two, we have a working file and a certified file. Somebody went into the wrong one, and quite frankly, after all of these, if there's only one or two that happened to, I'm surprised, because it's a new system for us. But he still wanted him to be lowered, and I think we had it at 266. He was at 249 last year. We brought him to 275, and Carl had recommended 266. And I think, does that take care of everybody? Is there anybody I'm missing?
In addition to Darren Moser and Brittany Moser, the same thing, same issue.
Okay, Brittany Moser, I didn't have her name.
I represent both.
She was here, I believe. I just wasn't told that she was coming, yeah. And he had Brittany at a 103 down to a 98.9, so a difference of roughly $4,000. And you are?
Thomas Behrens.
Thomas Behrens. Okay, I know you're in there. Oh, we got the parts number, that's wonderful, you see it. 4783, okay. Okay, you were at one of those duplexes, right?
Yeah.
Or eightplex, okay. That's a different issue there. And you're,
Steve.
okay, and Steve called me. Did you go to that local meeting?
No, I didn't.
Okay, here's what happened. There's an eightplex in, well, maybe we should take care of the other, and then I'll address this one. Because
Okay.
the other group
Yeah.
is all pretty much like we had
Okay.
in Brownsville.
Okay.
Okay, so how many were there?
Well,
I
we
mean,
add
we did
Brittany
10.
on there, and we add,
I have 8
one,
names.
two,
You mean since Brownsville, this new list?
This is the Crescent.
I think we're adding up 8. but
you
this
had
is-
8?
I do. Would you like them?
Yeah, tell me.
Tom Pellinger,
Yep,
Tammy Colon,
yep,
Tom Reed,
yep,
John Graff,
okay, yeah,
Randy Gibson,
yep,
Rick Merkel,
yep,
Darren Moser, and Brittany Moser.
Brittany, okay, yep. I didn't have John Cross.
Okay.
So those are the ones that, if you want to do them, and then we can just have these.
So we
two
need a
out.
motion to lower the 8 assessed values for those people in the Crescent.
Correct.
Motion. I'll make a motion.
Yep.
Okay, I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Thank you. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now, Cindy, you have
Okay, thank
two
you for that.
separate things
Okay,
here.
this last group is a group of 8 that have an eightplex in La Crescent.
Okay.
Let me get this straight. Zeke, had contacted Carl on, I believe, on or about 4/13/18 about this increase. Carl, unfortunately, he's out on leave till next week, so I am not able to get any information more than what's in the computer on this. The way I understand it is, Carl corresponded with Mr. Zeke and said we would apply depreciation and reduce it to 10%. That's a subjective thing I can't do.
It was supposed to be
Pardon?
118.
Right.
He sent me a letter to that effect.
Right, he would go from 131,000 to 118,200, and that would be a difference of, I don't even have what it was this year. Oh, I do too. Anyways, it would go down to 118. He was looked at prior to the meeting, I believe.
I received a
Yep.
letter before the meeting, so that's why I could not attend. the
Right.
meeting.
So he had done everything right. But Carl, thinking he was accurate in what he did, made the adjustment for all 8 units. The other 7, to my knowledge, I have found nothing to show that any of the other 7 went to the local meeting or contacted. So that's another issue like Kathy. They have the right to go to the small claims court, just like Brownsville City, and that's about all I can tell you about that issue.
So right now,
Pardon?
We did not attend the meeting because we received a letter from Carl.
Oh, that's right, you
I
did
think
not
it
attend the
had
meeting,
been resolved.
which was another error on our part. Thank you, that's correct. Like I'd stated earlier, the meeting is for the jurisdiction to have the right to know what changes were made and to approve these changes. When we do it on our own, we don't give the city or the township the opportunity to do that. That was erroneous, but that's how I was taught the last 20 years, and Carl and Diane and everybody. We found out this year because of the investigations that we need to dot our i's and cross our t's and make sure we're doing it right. And we were told what right is. In my heart, I believe Mr. Zeike deserves. Because he was one of the ones appealed prior to. The decision on the other 7 would have to be,
a board decision again.
yeah, well, like
Yeah.
I would say, follow what you did with Kathy.
Well, we're trying to correct errors that have happened the last 2 years.
The same error was, I mean, I got hold of him too. I think he sent the letter to everybody. Yes, he did.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Tom is another.
It was an error.
Well, we're correcting them as best we can.
You could do, like you did earlier, if you approved it and we found that there was absolutely no way that flies, it doesn't fly.
Well, I would rather do that.
Me too.
I
it's
I
on
feel
our
that
part,
that's,
Me too.
I feel that that's
Yeah.
within reason. We're not, none of us are out to hurt or to mislead the public. We're out to do the best that we can do. That's what my goal is to do the best that we can do going forward. I cannot change the past, I can only go forward.
Right.
So I recommend that. It's up to you to make your decision.
I will, I guess, I don't exactly know how I'm going to word it, but I would say I would move to approve the changes to the,
To honor his letters.
yes.
Yeah, Carl, in good faith,
He did.
Yeah.
so.
He did. And he's an excellent appraiser.
Yeah,
If
and-
he said that's what it's worth, I would,
I'm sorry, I'll second it, and then we can
Yeah.
talk.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
do you need to put the caveat that if it's.
I guess
doesn't
that'll
fly-
just be a consequence. I don't know that we have to.
Okay. If it doesn't fly with the state, then it's,
Yeah,
I can't do it.
if it goes, it goes.
Contingent upon compliance with state mandate,
There you go.
is how I understood Commissioner Zell's must be.
Yeah, so it's.
That's because you're good, Michelle.
She is. We
That's
listen.
part of the,
Through the discussion, Commissioner Zemeski, I took it to understand that his motion was contingent upon compliance with state mandates.
Yep. And that was kind of same for obviously La Crescent when we were talking
Yeah.
about that, you know, it's, if they override us, they override us, but,
We have to do what we can.
correct.
And we won't, as taxpayers, we will not give a written letter of any changes.
What I would
that we
say
do.
is, we should know within a week whether we can do these things or not.
Right.
I'm kind of really crunched this week with deadlines, but early next week, I hope to be able to get out, verify whether these are things that can be done. Anybody who would like to have it in writing, what it is, finally, or if you just want it verbally on the phone, contact me. And I'd be more than happy to verify with you what it would be.
your dad can certainly do that.
Pardon? What- I'm sorry.
I was talking to Tammy.
Oh.
But he's,
to the houses down in Crescent, the letter that I got from Carlin, and the lowered the values in, is that what my value's gonna go down to then on the property?
Like I stated earlier, I'm not going to say that they're all blanket that. It depends on when we go in. I would say it's gonna be extremely close, plus or minus. But I'm not going to say that's exactly it, I can't. But we're going to be bringing it down to at or on or close to what he said.
Okay.
Okay?
And we
That's
will-
my intent.
We will know that within a couple of weeks, you said?
If you call or write a letter or, yeah, I'm not going to, just anybody who doesn't want to know, I'm not going to contact them. Just if you want to know, please let us know. Are there any other questions? You're welcome, thank you. I want you to know that this is what the process is supposed to be. If we have an error, we want to be made aware of it. There are the steps that we need to go through, but we want to correct it. And we have guidelines. And we're just trying to do our best for that.
And to Carl's credit, he's so sincere in
He
his
is.
work, and, you know, it's nice to have somebody before and then with Carl, but everybody's trying hard.
Mhm.
We are,
That's true.
we are. Thank you, Commissioners.
Paying taxes, a lot of people do it. Yeah, just send it over.
So do we adjourn or recess?
Okay,
Are we adjourning or recessing?
well, I think we have to
Pardon?
recess.
Recess just to be safe, wouldn't you think?
44%, you know, like in
Attorney Young, we need to recess this meeting to wait for the final decision, right? Not adjourn it.
As far as,
Well, what do we,
The court,
Now, we've made motions and
yeah,
passed
the only
them.
thing was, whether Attorney
Probably a
Young
good
was going to
idea.
find information by next week.
it's easy to give you an idea exactly what your fingerprints are, and the other thing is too is.
I think we had it
Where
answered.
I'm seeing already, there are certain pamphlets and instructions for tax court that we can have prepared.
Okay.
For the people at the next meeting to hand out.
So he said we should really recess this meeting till he totally
well, that's
investigates.
fine.
And finish it next week.
I'll make a motion to recess the meeting until the next board meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded, do we have a vote on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Same sign, motion carried. The tax meeting is recessed
Till
for
next week.
a week.
I would make a motion to,
Tell you what,
Are
can
we doing it, are we?
Hold on.
Hold it.
Everybody, can we just keep it down just a little bit? Thank you.
okay, I would move that we go back to our regular board meeting.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay,
Second.
second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Give me a couple seconds.
Okay, good.
So do we have to read through this by ourselves now?
Well, you can have Dick read it to you in bed in the middle of the night if you want.
Memorize it.
This is what I'm gonna have Robin read to me and put me to bed like I do to Wyatt.
Okay, I'll leave.
Deputy Swedberg, thank you.
Oh, really?
That's Graff's daughter, Tammy Graff.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Who made
Really
the
good.
motion and seconded to return to the regular
I
session?
seconded it. Jack motion.
I motioned.
Thank you.
That'd be Miller.
Spelled Z-F-Y.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jack Johnson is who it is.
There you go.
Go ahead, I'm back with you.
New board member,
I'm back with you.
recently elected.
Where do we, oh,
Okay.
approve credit cards.
We were on action items, approve credit cards for auditor and environmental services office staff.
What is the, why did this suddenly arise?
New auditor.
That would be the reason for the auditor's office. Carol,
The environmental services, they have people who go to meetings and they have a card for RIP, and I don't issue them just to every employee, so it's a departmental credit card.
Cindy, can you guys go out there and talk? Just so, thanks.
Carol?
What now, Carol?
We don't issue a credit card to every employee so that they can go to trainings and say, use the credit card for the lodging. That's why we're requesting an environmental services card for the different employees to use. We generally just issue a credit card in the department head's name
Right.
and then one in the departmental card.
We've talked about doing that for a long time, just having one for the department.
Right. Like the
It's a good
surveyor's
idea.
office has a card just that says Houston County Surveyor or Surveyor's Office.
Right.
Sometimes has trouble using it. IT just has a credit card that says the IT department.
Mm-hmm.
So this is to have an environmental services department with a credit card. Maintenance department has one, building maintenance has one, not in a specific employee's name. But they are required to sign and acknowledge the policy. And the department head is responsible for that card, so if anything, if there were charges where they don't provide the proper documentation, the department head is responsible for that. The county will not pay for credit card charges that don't have the detailed invoice.
Right.
Was there supposed to be paperwork turned in because
There was paperwork turned in, but it didn't make it to the board. That's why we're redoing it.
So in addition to the department head, it's checked then by you?
Yes.
Good.
I'm still getting some spam from China from when I contacted them, or made an employee contact them.
Yeah.
We didn't have the
Well-
documentation we needed.
Well, it can be, I mean, it's an area I think that needs to be
Double check.
closely watched, yeah.
I agree.
All right, motion to approve credit card for auditor and environmental services staff.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Consider request to close License Center on August 27 and 28 for enhanced training.
What's DL? Oh, driver's
Yeah.
license. Never mind.
Driver's license, ID. Tell us about it. You had something in the packet, I know you did.
right, for Minnesota to become compliant with the federal mandate that people refer to as Real ID, it's an identification that you can actually travel on a plane with, because Minnesotans right now are in that state that they don't meet compliance with that.
You mean as far as like if you didn't have a driver's license, this would be your official ID?
Minnesota's driver license no longer qualifies for air travel after a date unless it is, and I hate to use this word, but it's enhanced to meet federal criteria or guidelines.
Right.
Homeland Security has, Homeland Security has given
extension.
us extensions. They're getting tired of
They're
that.
done with them.
Yeah.
So you can't just use a driver's license to get on a plane anymore?
You won't be able to.
You have to have a passport.
It is gonna sunset where the current Minnesota license will not qualify you to get on board a plane using it.
But we're gonna do new licenses?
Yes.
Yeah, the new
okay.
ones will.
This
Yeah,
is
and
the
we've got-
process.
We have a crack outfit up there that should be doing that real quickly, that license.
Yeah, the same people are gonna do this that did the other one, I'm assuming?
Most of the
If
states have
concerned-
done it, but
At the state levels, at the same bunch of people.
So,
Which was just in the newspaper, that they said they are now running out of money in order to fix what they
Screwed up?
screwed up. So that'll take it close to 150 million if they get more money. Do that hourly sometime.
For $150 million, you'd think you could create a brand new one.
You could buy one from another
Another
state.
state, yeah.
Anyway, that's
Well,
another.
they're blessing us with
sore
another
spot
system,
there.
and it's going to be all new and improved, and they are mandating training.
So this is so that we,
This is so that I can send all 3 staff members at one time to a training offsite and get
Okay.
it completed.
I think
They're
what-
outstate Minnesota. If we, you have to secure a seat, you have to make it that,
Okay.
and looking at travel and distance of where the trainings were offered.
well, I think closing it with proper notice is not a big issue. I would make a motion to approve.
Yep, second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Being no public hearing, no public here, I'm sure there's no comment, so would you like to start again, Teresa?
Well, I had 3 meetings, extension meeting, EMS, and workforce development that I was not able to attend, but I will get copies of the minutes and update you on what happened.
I just had a SEMCAC meeting. It was actually a conference call. Wasn't anything earth-shattering, just kind of some routine business. And other than that, we had obviously the board retreat that was that was good times. So Craig, in the briefing, it was not at Commissioner Connor's house. It was at Good Times. Yeah, it was officially at the Good Times.
I don't think I scared too many people with the one address.
So, in that, obviously, we got the minutes. So it was kind of mainly talked about the old jail and offices and office space.
Speaking of that, were you going to approve those or put them on file?
I thought we did.
Oh, yeah, everybody has seen the minutes that we have of that June 12th meeting.
Yeah.
We probably need to approve them.
I'd move to appeal, or
To appeal them?
Yeah, we talked appeals all night, yeah, to approve the minutes of the strategic planning.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that's...
So other than that, that's it.
Okay.
And I have nothing other than that meeting also. I did, not an official meeting, but I came down last week to visit with our transition offices, just to kind of, I welcomed Dar back, and she's very happy to be back, and I told her we're very happy to have her back, and with the guidance of Tess Eric Kruger, I think these bumps have been smoothed out very well.
I'm gonna add on that too. I actually have talked to Dar today, and she had said the same thing, that she was happy to be back. She is enjoying the format of the offices. And I talked to Michelle. Michelle said she couldn't be happier. And I'm just harassing you, but anyway, yeah. I get a chance to talk to everybody, and I agree, Jack. I think some of those rough bumps are kind of getting smoothed out. So
I just had one meeting, and that was at Preston with the One Watershed, One Plan thing, and that we're just going over what the projects are for the year. Nothing terribly significant or new there. We just had to go through it and approve. I've had several meetings in the last few weeks talking about strategic planning and how things are going to work out with what we're thinking of doing as far as departments are concerned and the various configurations that might potentially develop physically in this building and in the historic jail building and all of that sort of thing. And so I asked Tess to come or stay later tonight and please talk about some of that, since she's got a whole lot better grasp of this than I do, having spent a lot of time working with the collaborative design group, especially on the historic jail and some on this building. So, would you please?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I just made a few brief notes. Commissioner Arnold asked me to just kind of go through a thumbnail sketch, if you will, of what our process might look like depending upon how people wish to proceed. And in large part, how the board wishes to proceed, most importantly. And so we do have some opportunities with regards to how we not staff our operations, how we actually locate our staff regarding our operations and our delivery model and our delivery systems. We haven't always had that opportunity in the past because we had to kind of many times design operations or procedures around the facilities we have, if you will. Now with the advent of potentially having, should the board determine to go this way, the opportunity to, I'm pointing in the wrong direction, I always am, the opportunity to use the historic jail structure for co-location of certain offices that may work together. It affords us an opportunity, if you will, to use this structure and to really evaluate how we look at this structure as well, especially with the advent of some of the conversations that have been occurring with and planning with regards to public health and human services on their delivery models. You know, so with that in mind, it's rather nice that we will be able to plan potentially operations first and then our structures around it, and that'll be kind of a first, you know, because we could do an open concept over there. We just are going to have an opportunity in the next few months to really look and see what kind of operations do we wish to have with certain departments. Certain departments that have some common overlap and the way they serve our residents, whether that be in land use, land records, planning, the assessor's office, just very similarly to how veteran services, human services, and public health. You know, from a strategic planning perspective and how you go forward looking at this, it has always been my recommendation that we start with the top. We start with the County Board of Commissioners. But that visioning process the whole process is more like a tennis match, if you will. You have, and when you do strategic planning, you may do some visioning up here. Your visioning may include some general objectives such as including responsiveness to customers, increasing our resiliency, in other words, how fast we're able to bounce back because from any kind of crisis due to our cross-training, our co-location, our use of electronic resources, whatever the case may be. So you have some of these big picture items, and then you kind of lob that ball at that tennis match down to the department heads and staff, if you will, who you may actually have some distinct goals too. I don't want to say that you wouldn't have that. You might say that by a certain date you want, this has been tossed around a lot so it shouldn't be a surprise, but integrated systems with regards to deeds and recording deeds and that whole process. You may have some very distinctive goals. But then you lob the ball, if you will, at the departments, because we really need that vision to be this to be an inclusive process. If we want one buy-in, and two, if we want it done and what I would say, the people that are actually doing the work need to be the one process mapping and really out there crunching what's possible and what isn't. So it's the department heads and the staff in those departments will be heavily involved is the way, would be a recommendation. Through process mapping, you've heard MCIT has been on the road selling, and I was one of the people that bought into it. But selling, if you will, lean processes, Kaizen events, where you have every process mapped out. Now, keeping in mind that we're only as strong as our weakest link, we have to have, rather than just saying, okay, I want this to move here and that person to move there, we have to do it in the manner in which the folks that are the experts at doing the work are at the table to help us design the process. And actually, that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. But then, you know, at the end of the day, that team owns the process and they buy into it. There's no convincing because they've convinced all of us. They've developed it. There's a certain pride in that development and a certain level of leadership, folks stepping up to the table. During that, we do this integrated process, do this most effectively by having, in my opinion, integrated teams. And what I mean by integrated teams, that means we're not operating in the silo of department A, B, or C. An integrated team is representation by somebody who has an interest at that point in time in that aspect of the process being part of it. This isn't something that is new or historical. NASA, I'm just thinking of this, thinking out loud right now, NASA, Texas TI, all these big organizations have integrated teams. And you gain a lot more for it. We also set the tone for innovation during this process and have an opportunity to set the tone for not just innovation, but that innovation is a ongoing, continuous quality improvement culture that we want to develop here, that we don't ever get stuck just by saying, well, now that we've developed it, we're fine for the next 10 or 20 years, because we can't figure out what the next 10 or 20 years actually will lead. Our process will include assessing what human talent we have. It's one thing to say, well, you know, County XYZ up in northwest Minnesota does it this way. Well, if you look at all of our rural counties, we all organize our services slightly different for one main reason. They assess the talent they have at the table at that time and determine who is best in the position to do the work and how they can best deliver those resources. And what also at the same time they assess what technological resources they have available to them or might be available to them at a certain cost and how we can leverage that. So in a nutshell, and we should have indicators and assess, but in a nutshell, when we design this process, we would be looking at potentially how we can best integrate some of these services with the facilities we will be potentially having. Maybe they're open concept facilities for allowing for more freer movement, cross-training so that we never have a situation where one, possibly two people know us. It should be seamless to the public. It should be seamless to us. It'll go a long way, I think, also for continuity of operation planning. It will be more accountable to the public, I believe, both financially as well as being able to make sure that we are doing the best service that we can for them. And hopefully it'll, in that process, if we really look closely and stay on track, you know, it mitigates our cost, if you will, at any point in time, because it eliminates, at minimum, minimizes our, it doesn't eliminate it, but it minimizes our rework. And if we have a culture of trust and continuous improvement, any study you look at estimates, in HR estimates, productivity losses anywhere between 15 and 40%. It's worst case scenario, I guess. Those are just lost dollars. We ought to be able to recapture those energies and put them forward thinking. And if it requires a bit of retraining of folks, those are opportunities for people. That was my recap.
Okay, I like your evaluation or the elephant in the room, in my mind, is the cost. We really need to zero in on what any renovation
Absolutely.
we would do and at what cost of that building. We need to make some kind of get an assessment of what we could potentially get if we sold them. It's still a Meyer building for me.
Meyer building.
Probably always will be known as that.
You have the Meyer building, you have also some of the money set aside from the water damage. There was likely going to be, Ian Berry was given very positive indications that we would be able to achieve get some dollars from the state
second
for
phase.
the historical impact of,
No,
being able to do something.
the
like
thing that blew my mind in that in that historical, in that collaborative design thing, was the amount of money that the county would need to put into a remodel of that building for a brewery, etc., as opposed to the amount of money that we theoretically would have to put into that building to remodel it for county offices. There was a tremendous difference, and that was not a good sign for making it into county offices from just looking at the numbers.
Right.
There's a lot of other considerations that go into it, but from that, just a financial standpoint, that was several $100,000 difference.
I agree, and I understand, and we had a general contractor we talked to about some open concept where we didn't have individual offices. The more walls you put up, the more the surface on the floors, all of that goes into it. One of the main differences, as I recall, was the commercial enterprise that was proposed, as an option, put out there as an option. Doesn't have that much development on the second floor. And they had developed for the offices more office space itself rather than open, and being both floors with, I believe, some use on the third floor. So it was how they were.
Yes, there was some third floor stuff in that deal
And
too.
so there was less development, if you will, for the commercial enterprise that had to be done. Now, Commissioner Connor, I believe, was the one who suggested at one of the smaller meetings we had, I believe Commissioner Miller was there as well, where we talked about potentially staging it. In other words, you put in the HVAC, you put in all the utilities that you need, everything.
Yeah.
But you only finish out the first floor, and then as you can afford it, you finish out the second floor, but not doing it in multiple offices. Doing it in open concept.
I mean, what's the, we talk about the renovation, but I'm concerned a little bit with the cost of demolition because I don't know how easy it's going to be to dismantle like those cells that are in there, right? They would all have to come out.
Hey, I run a cutting torch real cheap.
Well, that's true. That's true. I'll donate mine, but we were told at one time, and I don't remember if it's true, but they were talking about how those cells stack on top of each other and are the middle column of that building,
That
right?
is not accurate.
Okay.
We did find that out.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that they realized from that is when they started looking at the, how they were constructed, how they were put together in the wells, and that is, plus some of the historical data.
So
And
they
it's
could
not
they
accurate.
could be removed easily enough that it's not going to jeopardize.
It won't
structure-wise.
jeopardize the structure at all. I mean, unless you push them into the building. No.
Okay, so realistically, the because the water damage, a lot of the main entrance area is all gutted anyway. It's mainly to get the cells out and then start reconstructing.
And I
the
don't
thing.
even know if you have to do that right
Oh,
now,
really?
Commissioner.
Okay.
If you want to use some of that space for storage, yes. If you, but for, it wouldn't necessarily have to be. Anyway. Some of the cost could be, if you only did the first floor the first year. I mean, I really think we should have a contractor in that would be able to help advise us, but you, I don't believe you'd even have to put the elevator in the first year. And that's a huge
Well,
cost.
you know, the other thing that we kind of talked
Because it's
to,
all on the first level.
but the one thing that we kind of talked about a little bit at the meeting last week, it's going up is not nearly as expensive as the initial cost. Okay, so if we're already putting in the infrastructure for AC and all that, do you put in the, like we were talking about, at least the casing for an elevator now while you're at it, and then if you use it, use it. If you don't, you don't. But it would be a lot easier, I would think, to do it on the initial build than trying to, you know.
Just have to see what the bids show.
Right.
See what the drawings show, see what the bids show, and then, okay, make a
And the good
determination.
news was that there was quite a bit of discussion with the Department of the Historical Society, excuse me, I almost said the wrong department, Minnesota Historic Society, and that this structure is considered extremely strong and will be very vital going forward for many, many years. And that was for the next stage of grant proposals, that was very critical. The other discussion with them was that for them to be used for county offices, there's a good argument to be made that this is a long-term benefit to the people of Houston County that the state may then want to put some dollars into, because it's less risky than a commercial enterprise.
Right.
I don't know,
Now,
there'll be other dollars for the commercial.
In going through on that collaborative design report, in going through the individual rooms and the various parts of each individual room in that report, there were many, many, many places that were rated in fair or poor condition. There were 3 or 4 instances, I think, where there were places that were simply rated unacceptable condition. There is that's got to be looked at,
When you
and
walk through it, there are,
yeah,
I'm
and
talking
and
about-
there was a
outside shell.
fairly good synopsis of that toward the end of the report.
Right.
I was, by
Correct.
the time I got there, I was really worried, but then the synopsis made it sound not quite so bad.
But I'm thinking,
yeah.
you know, like Tessa's saying, I mean, the outside perimeter of the building itself
It's
is
solid.
Solid. I mean, if you literally dumped a backhoe in the middle of that building and gutted every single piece out of it other than the shell, it's still a structurally sound building. It's just, what do you do with the inside? So I would assume those poorly rated areas, we would just take it all out and redo it.
They were stuff that could be dealt with.
Right.
There's a lot of it. I don't know, the open concept becomes very appealing at
Yes.
that point.
Well, I can't believe it would cost, I'm going to say all that much, but I'm using that term in comparison to all these rooms with that many more doors and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you had an open concept, you know, that,
You would have to have, a conference area where staff.
yeah,
would
yeah,
be.
blocked off conference area and bathrooms
You
and.
might have to have blocked rooms that are small private rooms where there can be one-on-one meeting with the
Mhm.
customer for those conversations that shouldn't be
Mhm.
across the counter.
Correct.
Right.
But that doesn't mean all individuals have to have.
Well, and I mean, the thing there is, you know, we had talked about too, I mean, if you had even big glass windows or something that you can see, oh, it's being used, let's go into this conference room. You don't, each department doesn't have to have their own room, you know, I mean, they can be shared and.
No.
And I think that's, you know, the whole point is, it's the sharing and the collaborative of interdepartmental, you know, collaboration that.
There are some beautiful redesigns by architects with real keen eyes and an innovative spirit have come up with for how
Mhm.
they've converted buildings up in the cities that were nothing but dirty old warehouses that had nothing but a shell on the outside. And
Oh, they look gorgeous
and
inside.
they're gorgeous on the inside, but they're also open and they lend themselves to, and they're quiet.
Mhm.
The acoustics are good, and they're not just, because you don't want a noisy barrel
Right.
either.
Many years ago, I was involved in a situation a bit similar to this. In Rosemount, I taught in a middle school building, and actually I helped design the music area in that building, but that building was designed with open spaces. There were no separate classrooms in it. You would have an area probably 3 times this size where you would have 5 or 6 different classes going on at the same time. You had to be careful with your acoustics or you're going to have a mess because it's going to be a zoo, but they did the acoustics right. And the biggest problem, I mean, obviously music wasn't in a room like that. We're so blasted noisy that we had to go off in a cubby hole, but okay. You had the most difficult process of the whole thing was to get staff to buy into it and get staff to understand that, hey, this really is going to work.
Mhm.
And it did. The kids adapted like that.
Mhm.
No problem. You would think that there would be discipline problem over here that everybody in the room would see and make a big deal out of it. Forget it, never happened.
If you wish
No,
to go on.
it just works.
Right.
My children went to a school like that. If you, for elementary, if you go onto Collaborative's website, and you notice the photos that they have up there as headers for each of their particular areas, shows how they converted a space for themselves. But if you go into some of the conversions they did for other counties, you can click on and go through slideshows and see how some of that can be done. Some of the design work they did.
And of course, the other thing you can do with a situation like that, let's say you've got 25 kids here, 25 kids here, another 25 over there, all of a sudden, in the lesson plans of those 3 teachers, you've got something where they really do need to present some material to all 75 kids. Each kid picks up his chair and goes over and sets it down, and there you are. No problem.
Yep.
When you're done with that presentation, you go back. It takes 2 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the staff, as a staff member, my hesitation would be, I really need to make sure I have a workable workspace that's conducive to me getting my work done. And I think if you go and look and see how the options that are available. And I walked through one of these facilities recently. Man, it just made me want to go and sit, I thought, I love this workspace. I would love it.
Well,
It had a lot of life.
and I think the thing going forward too, though, is being careful to, how do you say, separate the wheat from the chaff. As far as, when somebody says, "Well, look at what I have right now. It's not big enough." Well, just because you put one paper here and one paper here and one paper here, and it takes up 100 square feet, doesn't mean you need 100 square feet. If you're not using your space efficiently now, so when we're looking at space needed, we also have to look at, we can't say, well, just because you scatter all your stuff out, like, for instance, our son, because all of his toys are scattered along the living room, doesn't mean, that you need that much space. You know what I mean? So there are efficient ways to do things. No, I'm not picking on you. I was actually thinking of a different scenario, but
You're teaching the kid to play in a closet now. That's what you're really doing.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole point is when we're looking at it, we got to make sure that, people are going to say they need more space, and they probably do just because this is what they use now, even though they're not efficient with how they're using it now. When we look at, we had talked about storage space and files and things like that. Do we need to take some of those files over? Is this a time to thin out some of that so we don't need so much space? Can it go, electronically? Can some of those documents be tossed because they're past their date of needing to be held? There's a lot of things, I think, looking at it a lot deeper when we look at space needed than just what you currently are using. What do we really need, and not just what you have now? Make sense?
Yeah, and we're not talking a 1 or 2 year project to get this sorted out.
Like 6 months.
We're not talking 6 months either. We're talking closer to 6 years.
But I think that's something too it's not something overnight. It's not something going on right now. And the other thing that we had kind of talked about at the meeting too was, depending on what we do over there may depend on what's going to happen with the highway department building. How, what are we going to do there? Office space. The other thing we talked about, John and Mary had talked about, if we say down the road, you combine human services and public health. They had talked about having more of an open concept with office space here. What offices are going to be entailed? Do we, we had talked about, do those offices go here? Do they go over to the, there's a lot that this isn't going to be something that's going to happen in the immediate near future here,
But no.
However, I do think you'll have an opportunity with this next round of grants.
Yes.
Right, and and that may dictate part of how you proceed going forward with whether or not you get a large base grant to do some of this work. It may be work like on fascia and roofs, but I tell you what, that's expensive work.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can, we'll just see where we're at on it. But I was I'm excited about the potential that we can examine options.
Yeah.
And
and I think
what do you need as working with this next grant? What kind of direction, if any, do you need from the board to help that process along?
Thank you very much for asking the question. The Preservation Alliance assisted us with writing and getting this last grant. And I think it would be, at that point, I would be having a conversation with them to see if they'd be interested in assisting us with this much larger grant application. Mm-hmm. And we would be able to use many of the documents that we have now and continue to go forward with the current contractor we have as well. So we may need, but that's really premature at this time.
Okay.
I'm trying to, in the next 7 days, hopefully we'll be buttoning down and sending our final report in to the Minnesota Historical Society. I keep wanting to say Human Services, Historical Society, so that we can give them their full 30 days to review so we can get final payment on this one. we'll breathe a lot deeper, we'll look at their time frame for the next round, and we'll start seeing what we have to do to get our ducks in a row.
Jess, when you mentioned a much larger grant application, I must have to ask you, we're talking about both this building and
We have
potentially
tied
that
them
one
together.
if they don't demolish it? Because I haven't really heard a decision whether the county's gonna fix it up or tear it down.
Well, you know, that's the other thing too. I mean, I guess, you know, does the board need to have a consensus or make a decision that says this building is now determined that it will be county offices? I mean, as far as having a direction and going towards it versus staying in limbo, you know, I hate putting all this work into find this out, get this, apply for this grant, and then, well, but wait, we haven't made that decision. Maybe we still want to go out to the public, or maybe we want to demolish. I mean, do we need to make a decision?
Sometime this summer, I think you're going to have to make a decision what you want to do with it. I do encourage you not to discuss, you know, to demolition if in fact we're trying to get grants from the Historic Society. But if that's the way the board wishes to go, we would need to know that sooner than later. When we go for grant money, we will have to go with purpose in mind, and yes, you will have to have that decision.
And I guess the last portion of this that I will chat. Sorry, Fred.
You're interfering with my golf game.
I know. I guess me personally, I think it only makes sense to have it county offices. You know, as far as it's on campus here, I mean, it would be hard for me to open it up to the public. I think there's some good ideas, and it would have been great to have a business here. But I mean, looking at it from a practical aspect,
Realistically, we couldn't sell it.
right?
We would have to lease it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens if the business fails?
Correct. And would somebody want to put a lot of money into it, knowing they will never own it? You know what I mean? It's just I just don't see the practicality
You
of
could
that.
write a 99-year lease, but it's still in the sale document.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
And if we can't make it work, we can't get grant money, and something doesn't happen, then maybe it's an option to raise it. But at this point in time, you know, I would like to see it go forward as office space more than
Well,
anything.
we're going to have to put that on the agenda for the next meeting. We can't.
I think when you decide
This is
that-
out of discussion.
Well, even I don't even know if it's next meeting, but you know, just in the
Yeah,
next
sometimes
month or
so.
so, we
Yeah.
should probably determine what's going to happen.
One of the things, and when you're trying to make that determination, maybe, I don't know how I would do this, but you have to think about what you will need in 20 years from now.
Mhm.
But you also have to think about what will that cost the taxpayers in 20 years. If you don't do this, is this a lost opportunity? I'm not saying it is or it isn't. But if you don't do this, then you're looking at what's, especially with, do you want to keep this other building? What kind of money will you have to put into that? What other money might you have to put into to build a different structure? There are a lot of things you have to balance when you determine, okay, is this really going to be the most cost effective for the county going forward?
Mhm.
It may actually, although it has a price tag to it, it may be one of your most cost effective options. That discussion hasn't been had, that analysis hasn't been done.
And there'll be something with the, you know, if you did sell the Meyer building, 20 years from now, it's 20 years older. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
get more value now than waiting, and that money could help offset.
Plus your deferred maintenance on some of your other structures.
Yeah, true.
And that ongoing deferred maintenance also is just, as another cost to weigh in the balance.
The cells are there for timeouts.
Say that again?
The cells are already there for timeouts.
Yeah,
There it is.
exactly. Go in the cage over there.
Yeah.
You got a timeout. You know, the other thing too is though, you had, we gotta go, but, you know, we talk about storage space, you'd have lockable cells for files, you know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
it is a safe in its own
It is,
right,
yeah,
you know?
It is.
Anything else we need to
Okay.
talk about?
I think we're probably ready for a motion for adjournment.
What's this update to public comment period located on website?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Take a look, please, at what is on the website relative to public comment period. It was last updated in December of 2016.
Okay.
It does not reflect the way that we handle public comment at this point. If somebody looks at that and then comes into one of our meetings, they are not going to recognize it.
Mr. Schulte
Yes,
mentioned that.
he brought that to my attention.
Yeah.
I had never looked at what
I
it says on the website.
I hadn't either.
And I did after he mentioned it, and hey, it's not relative.
Who should, or how should we proceed with that?
I think the IT guy basically does it.
Okay.
Right.
And I think, well, I can write something up and ask for approval on it at the next meeting.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
All right.
Yeah, okay, just, I've got authorization to do that, I'll do it.
All right.
We'll see what we get. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, I didn't hear anybody. Okay, we're adjourned.